Here we are.
We're live. Are we live? Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for coming in. We hope everybody's safe and well. We have been off the air for about 3 weeks now. There have been a couple of things going on in the team, but I'm not going to get into details. Just want to say the team is a lot weird. Other people decide to go their separate ways, and Sarah and I do wish them the best of luck in whatever endeavours they're going to partake of now. However, we are back again, and we have Jennifer and her son Craig with us all the way from sunny Warren, California. Evening, Frankie. Talking to us about the recent 4-day trip to Nevada.
Yeah, it was 4 days. Yeah, it was 4 days.
Frankie and Sarah's in the chat. Andy Murphy's there as well.
Oh, yeah, I see that. And Andy's in the chat too.
Well, so I'll hand it over to yourselves because you went to Nevada, no me.
Yeah, it's true. We did, but we went there with you guys in mind, thinking that you guys would probably go, "Wow, there's like nothing here but desert."
Yeah.
But
well, that's it you get. When they say about Nevada, I know Andy's heading over your way beginning of next month. Nevada way. Second week in August or something. But when people talk about Nevada, when they talk about Nevada, I always imagine like Goodfellas in the film Casino, where they bury the bodies in the desert kind of thing. That's the image I always get.
Well, you wouldn't be too wrong. Mojave Desert. I see. That's a different type of desert. That's very sandy. Ours is where we were was very dirt and it's just a high desert. That's why I don't know. It's not your sand. It's not a sandy desert.
No.
But yeah, it was Gold Hill, Nevada is where we went, which is right outside of a town called Virginia City, which is about 45 minutes away from, give or take, from Reno. So you really have to go a little bit out of your way to get there. It is a silver mining town. So that was fun. And Craig's never been. I've been several times, and I wanted to make sure Craig and Matt, could go. And it was I should say it was hot at first, and then it got really nice, and it wasn't as hot after we were there. So luckily it cooled down enough for us to not be sweating profusely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It did get windy. That was not fun. Windy,
so when you say it get hot, what kind of temperature are you talking about?
Let's see. The highest temperature it got about in desert terms, high desert terms. Anything above 90 is just way warm. It's warm and it's humid, and it was about 95, 97 per take.
Reno's not bad.
An ugly desert. I'm not going to agree. Yeah, it's not a pretty desert, but it has a lot of history. So the area that we went to, they call it the Miner's Cabin. The place that you have to rent it from, they call it the Miner's Lodge. You have to rent it from the Gold Hill Inn. Thank you, Gold Hill. There I went. The Gold Hill Inn and Restaurant, or Crown Point, the Crown Point, whatever. I'm messing this all up. It's the Crown Point Inn and Restaurant in Gold Hill. There we go. I got it. I finally got it. It's a mouthful.
Craig will keep you.
Yes. Well,
What?
Nothing. So yeah, arriving there, we arrived early before the cabin was ready for us, which was okay. So I was showing them around, showing them, okay, this is how close we are to the mine. And I said, see this shaft? You see this big, tall wooden structure? That's the outside of one of the entrances or exits to the mine is right outside the cabin.
Literally right there.
Yeah, it's all fenced,
No joke.
fenced up. You can't, And then I showed them the nearby mines that were also affected by this mine disaster. This is why we went there in the first place. The mine disaster of 1869 is why I'm attracted to it, because how many people actually died in this disaster. But it's not just haunted from the disaster. Frankie cook an egg on the rocks. Not that hot. It wasn't that hot to cook an egg on the rocks, but it was warm and humid. It was just humid. And then the top of the mine, the entrance to the yellow, it's called the Yellow Jacket Mine, is actually a hop, skip, and a jump away. What took us 20 minutes to walk to the top? 20,
Not even.
like less. And that's when we went up there to look at the actual entrance to the actual mine.
Mm-hmm.
So going there, it was how should I say, when we entered the cabin, it was it felt like I know what it felt to me. Why don't you say what it felt like to you when you entered the cabin for the first time?
It was heavy. I don't know. Kind of like walking through mist, or like something. I don't know how to explain it. Just heavy. There you go.
No,
Heavy.
it's your description. I've been there before. This was your first description. So heavy, like walking through what? Sludge. Okay, there we go.
Birds.
Jennifer, would you visit Skinwalker Canyon? I'll visit anywhere as long as I have the money to go. Eventually,
So-
we kind of everywhere.
There was a heavy atmosphere in it.
Yeah, I would have to agree. It does have a heavy atmosphere when you enter the cabin. Cabin, gosh.
Cablin.
Yes, it's a cabin.
I think you should let Craig take over, Jennifer, because you.
Because I can't talk tonight. So those of you who have seen the little teaser video that we had when we did the walkthrough video that we posted of the cabin, it's very uneven. It's sloped. None of the rooms are on the same level. But when you look outside, it all looks like it's one level, or at least leveled ground.
That's something I was going to ask you about, Jennifer. Obviously, we watched the videos you done, and you said the cabin was on a slant. Were the beds? It's going to be a silly question, but I need to ask you because Sarah and I recently were away camping, and the second site we went to in Pendle, it looked flat, but when you pitched the tent at night time, you were basically hanging onto the side of the air mattress because you were lying like that. Was it the same way?
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad, but it was a point where I had where the bed was, at least where I was laying. I had to prop the pillows up so I didn't feel like I was laying like this with my head down here and my feet up that way. Is there anywhere in Scotland you would like to investigate? Point me in the direction and I'll go if I have if I have the money and if I have my passport.
Yep.
Lead me there, I'll go. Name a place. I don't even care if it's been recent to old. Name a place. I love history and I love places that are supposedly haunted or proven haunted. So that's why I go. But yeah, the cabin. So I would say the cabin itself, has the front room is where we slept. We slept in the front room, and Matt slept in the real bedroom of the cabin. And I don't like going in that back room. It's too, I don't know. It feels like it is like somebody does not want me in that room. As many times as I go in that room, I don't like being in there.
Is it the cabin itself, or is it the land, do you think?
It might be a little bit of both. Both, yeah. The cabin itself, we found out later, and I've been trying to research this for a while, and the conclusion of the cabin is that it was a rest shop or a rest cabin for those in between their breaks during the time that the mine was working. So it's hard to say where they actually took their rest, if it was in the front room or if it was in the back, I don't know. So it could be a little bit of both, that the cabin's been reconstructed over time and the land itself hasn't really changed except for underneath because they kept digging and digging and digging. So that part changed a lot. excuse me. The kid. I mean, it was good for us three. I mean, they actually right now they don't want any more than 4 people in the cabin currently. So there are still restrictions on how many people are allowed in the cabin at any one given time. So us 3 was a perfect number. So I'm trying to think. Our first. Are you talking? There is okay. Are you talking about the miners' cabin? There was a suicide in the 80s. All right. Now that is inconclusive whether it happened actually in the cabin or if it actually happened in the cabins across the way or in the hotel. I have looked this up. The Miners' Cabin is very famous because of Ghost Adventures, and other shows have actually had Ghost Cabin on their show. But I haven't found anything in their archives indicating that it actually happened directly on the Miners' Cabin. There were several suicides. There was a suicide in the Washoe Club. There's been suicides in the Queen Anne Hotel, the Silver Queen Hotel. There have been many suicides all over Virginia City and in Gold Hill, so it's not just one area. It was a known possible suicide, but this one actually comes from the right after the incident. A couple of men who had survived the disaster, they died the next day, but it was inconclusive whether or not they actually took their own lives or they succumbed to their own injuries. So that I was able to find, which I thought was interesting. But as far as the suicide that happened, as I said, it's inconclusive. A lot of those things they try to keep them hush hush. Even the Washoe Club, they try to say that wasn't a suicide. They try to say that the person didn't hang themselves or whatever. But you all know how stories happen. They get down the rumor mill, the grapevine starts happening, and no matter how much the articles of history, or when they do the articles in the newspaper, they're going to say what they hear. They're going to say what they've been told. So who knows if what they actually reported was correct or not. Right now, I would say it's very inconclusive if it actually happened in the Miners' Cabin in the 80s. Did it happen in the hotel? It's more than likely, I would say it would happen more in the hotel versus the actual Miners' Cabin itself. But that's my opinion. That's just my opinion. But it's a good question. Excellent question.
Did you investigate
Go ahead.
the graveyard in Virginia City?
Not the Silver Terrace. We went to the Gold Hill Graveyard.
Yep.
The Gold Hill Graveyard
In the middle
of nowhere. I posted a couple of pictures. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. You don't 4-wheel drive to get there, but oh gosh, it would help if you had a 4-wheel drive vehicle. It's all dirt roads, and and GPS sucks. You have to guess where you're going to get to the graveyard, because the Gold Hill Graveyard is where majority of the victims of that mine fire have been buried. I have been to the Silver Terrace cemetery years ago. You went there once when we were just in Virginia City, and that one is just huge. And that one it's not in the middle of nowhere, because it's right outside of Virginia City. So if you've ever looked at a map of Virginia City and you see the cemetery outside, just directly outside of Virginia City, if you look at Gold Hill, which is down the way, and then you try to locate the Gold Hill Cemetery, it doesn't always pop up on the maps. You have to know where you're going, or you're going to get lost.
Right. So, what's the Washoe Club? What's that?
The Washoe Club was a millionaires club in Virginia City. It was built to. It did lots of things over the years. I mean, you had Billionaires Club, whatever you want to call it. That's where history goes crazy. The people who had the money would come there to gamble, and they would stay, and they would also lend out rooms to lend to people who were actually part of the mine. So they would actually have smaller rooms and would share rooms with other miners. So it has, over time, become many different things, including apartments at one time before it completely shut down. It's yeah, I would say it's haunted. I think it's harder to hear a lot of those haunts these days, probably because of the foot traffic that comes in there. It gets a lot of tourist foot traffic. If you want to tour that one, you got to do a private investigation at night, and that's going to cost you some money to do it. But if you have a amount of people together, it's 2 floors that you get to investigate. It's not. You're not. The only way you're going to be disappointed is if nothing happens while you're there, which is always a possibility.
So what was your impressions of it, Craig?
I'm sorry, what?
What was your impressions of it?
Oh, my impression. I mean, it was cool. It was different. I don't know. Going to the top of the line was really cool. Seeing all the way down.
I really wanted to go to the top, so he made sure that he's like, we're going to go up, because it was kind of a bit of a climb, and it was just rough. It hadn't been cleared away in a while, the road that gets up to the top.
Yeah, it was brushy and stuff.
Yeah. So we got to the top, and you get to the top, and it's just this, you're looking at everything, and you don't see the hole at first. You don't see the hole to the mine. And we get up there, and we're just talking to each other, and we hear something, we're like, what is that? And then pigeons pigeons just fly out of the hole. And then after that is when it got really weird. It got really strange. Yes, you describe it. You're the one who saw that.
It's like the smell of, I guess, the mine. I don't know. More of like it's hard to explain. Like old metal. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, oils. And he noticed it first. I didn't really notice it. He had been noticing it actually the majority of the time we were there. That was the first time I noticed the smells when I got up to the top of the mine. I didn't notice the oil smells or that burn smell at all. And then slightly after that, we heard what sounded like screams, and we kind of looked around going, well, what the heck was that? But there's no one around. It's just us. And we kind of did the whole, okay. That happened, and it's the middle of the day.
Threw a rock down there.
That's right. You threw the rock down.
I
threw the rock down there. I said it was not a good idea. You went and picked up a rock, and I said, okay. But I did help count to see how far down it went.
How far was it?
Oh, a good 300 or so feet before it hit anything. Give or take. It might be, but then we heard it hit, and then we heard it roll and roll and roll and roll continuously down to whatever it finally hit, which I'm assuming must be where the door or blocked off part of the mine is, because it's been they blasted they closed a lot of the mine after the mine shut down officially and did its last whatever quartz and gold and silver came out of it, or at least when they thought it was empty and they were losing money, they blasted a lot of the entrances or just locked them up with a gate. So after the mine fire, they didn't do anything with this mine for about, I want to say, they didn't start mining back for, I want to say 2 or 3 years before they actually started production again. And even then, part of the mine had been flooded because they were trying to put the fires out. So a lot of the lower levels were flooded from this water. And when they were trying to pump the water out, the water was way too hot, which was causing more issues and more burns. And people didn't die because of this, but they did end up in the hospital because of the water burns. And they just didn't do any more deep mining after that. It was just shallow mining. It was whatever silver, gold, and quartz veins they were able to find at the time. It's but it was just interesting. The cabin that we're in is directly on top of the mine shafts, literally on top of the mine shafts. So people who died, not all the bodies were found. A lot of them were left in the mine.
Yep.
Yeah, that is tragic. There's a mine, where we are, maybe about 15 miles or something, was a big mining place, and there was a mining disaster happened there, and there was 4 miners trapped. They couldn't get them out, and so they're still down there, to this day. And it's hard, it must be hard for the families to know that, you know, your husband or son or whatever's down there, but you can't get them out. You know, you give them a proper burial and what have you.
Okay, Andy says this is okay. Definitely, that's what Frankie's trying to say. The sort of place I want to go when we get out there. Lots of history and lots of potential experiments, investigations to be done. I agree. We only chose one location. There's lots of places, at least in Virginia City. There's Gold Hill. There's another Silver City down below. Tonopah, Nevada is another place which I've been to. I haven't investigated, and I've concluded that town is just weird. Weird and almost as if it shouldn't exist anymore. Not that it doesn't exist. I mean, people live there, but that's the feeling I got from Tonopah. When you're in a place that's known for all these disasters over time, not just from the late 1800s all the way up until it shut down, there was all these disasters that happened. Lots of negativity happened in the area. People were going bankrupt. People were blaming people. People were trying to sue other people because of loss of money. So that's a lot of negativity for one little area.
So I know Matthew, he can't be raised tonight. He's busy. What did he make of
it? Sorry, excuse me. Say that one more time.
I say I know Matthew can't be raised tonight or this afternoon, whatever, because he's working. What did he make of it?
As in, what he covered exactly, or
what did he feel about the place?
At first, he felt stuff. I don't feel it's right for me to say what he told me. It was a very personal thing that happened there. But he knew things were there. But I don't know. I wish he was on so he could say what how he felt or what he was going through. I don't think it's fair if I were to say what he went through or even what Craig said, because as I said, was what he went through. He experienced with us, but I think he had his own personal experiences, of which either I haven't been privy to, or there's things that he told me I don't think it is right for me to share.
No, that's fair enough. So what were your investigations?
Well, the investigations, this is where you come in.
The experiments.
The experiments. We did the same experiments 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it?
I guess. So we used the spirit box and put my earbuds in. I turned it up all the way. And then I put my hoodie on backwards so I couldn't see, and I closed my eyes. And then I just said whatever I heard. And then they, Jen and Matt, they asked questions, and as if I'm the receiver or radio.
True. So Matt and I would ask the questions, and then we'd wait for a response. And he says exactly what he hears on the spirit box at that time. And we were recording it. Matt was actually doing a video of it, and the first time we were getting responses. At least we think we're getting good responses this way. And I've been going over the audio, and I do have a lot of things that are on the audio that he didn't catch, but I caught. There's a couple of Irish they're talking. Irish miners talking. It's really fun to hear them talk. But yeah, things that you caught, and then things that I caught on audio. I don't. I know Matt's been going over. He's been really busy with his other filming, so I don't know if he's been able to conclude anything from the footage that he filmed. But we made a mistake the first night.
Yeah.
Oops.
You didn't know how to.
Matt and I got going. He's got his hood over him this way. He's got the earbuds in. He can't hear us. He can't see us. We realized when we got done with our experiment, how do we tell Craig that we're done? So I reached over to touch him, and he jumps. Oh my God. Totally jumps. And he's like, oh my, I'm like, no, that's us. That was just me. I touched you. It wasn't anything. But we learned that the first time to, so when we did the experiment the next night, that I don't touch him at the end of the experiment. I just turn off the Xbox or the spirit box, which worked better because during the session something did happen.
They touched him. That's funny.
They did. They touched him. He's actually asks us point blank, "Is that you guys, or is that? Oh, please tell me that was you." That's what he's telling us. Because he's sitting there. I mean, literally, he's got this thing in his hand, and he's just listening, going, "Okay." And then the next thing he goes, "Please tell me that was you."
We call Craig Trigger from the.
Maybe he's gone with me a couple other places here in California where the spirits tend to want to talk to him at times more than me, which is okay. It happens, but he can definitely. He's a trigger device now.
You saw what was standing over.
That's right, I did. I didn't have the camera going. I wish I did, or else that would have been an awesome catch, but it wasn't. Personal experience again. I'm laying in bed, and I wake up because I hear this noise in the front room, and I thought Matt had gotten up, and no, it wasn't Matt. And next thing I know, there's this dark figure standing and staring at Craig where he's sleeping, just staring. And I kind of tilt my head, and I go to say something, and it disappears. I get up to go around, making sure it wasn't a shadow. I was trying to debunk my own what I saw. And then he tells me that you saw something.
When I was working out, something was like blocking the mirror. Like in front of me, I could see this big mirror, and I realized I couldn't see my reflection. And then after a little bit, I could see my reflection. Something was standing there blocking it, or something like that. I don't know.
At which no one was known. The only people that were in the cabin were me, Matt, and Craig. I was sitting to the side, going over some stuff. Matt was in the back bedroom, so nobody was in the midsection, which is pretty much the table and the kitchen. And the mirror that he's talking about is a sliding glass mirror. There was no one there, and he's doing the whole looking at this. I see him looking over, going, and he's like backing up, going, and he's like. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, my reflection wasn't there. And I said, what are you, a vampire? He's like, no, Mom, I'm being serious. I'm like, okay. So something was blocking his view in the mirror while he was doing his daily workout.
That's weird. Andy's always.
Why do you think America seems so charged with paranormal activity? I don't think all of America is. I think what's charged is what people have been either privy to, what's been said on TV. Because it's not just in the United States. It's you have Canada, you have Central America, and South America. The whole area is or has hot spots for the paranormal. So if you narrow it down to just the United States. It's not the entire United States, unfortunately. It seems to be where populace is, and where populace was is pretty much where a lot of the hotspots have been, or where the history has left its mark versus where people have remained or stayed now. Example: San Francisco. San Francisco has left its mark over many years, and a lot of hotels have been rebuilt, redone, and there's been all kinds of old history, new history literally combined on top of each other. So I would say populace has a lot to do with it, especially if it's known in history. That's just once again, this is my opinion. What do you think? Is this going to agree?
The mirror incident, Craig, you said you couldn't see your reflection. Did you feel anything? at the time, or was it just, did it happen more than once, or?
No, it was just like it was dark, so I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I couldn't see my reflection, and then all of a
It
sudden,
wasn't that dark. We had the lights off. But
yeah, it was nighttime. So I just figured maybe it's just dark, and I couldn't see it. And then later I saw my reflection, so I was like, oh,
And we know by
That's
walking
interesting.
towards that mirror that there's no way you can miss your reflection because you're walking towards the mirror to get to the kitchen.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
yeah. No matter what, you pass by that mirror. We didn't have any incidences in the kitchen or anywhere else. We did do another experiment where we all left the cabin and left. Matt left a video camera running, and I had my recorder running, and we left some trigger objects on the table to see if anything would happen. Kind of set up the game, try to make a poke game going. Nothing on my audio close by on the table. You can, because unless you know audio and you've done enough investigations, you know how close things are comparative to your audio that you have. You know where they are. If it's close by versus if it's in the next room, you just know because you've learned to hear this. You know where things are. Well, in this case, I'm listening back to my audio, and I can hear everything in the kitchen, in the rooms. Nothing on that table. And then Matt concluded that when he was going over the video, that nothing on the video, nothing moved, nothing there, but there's stuff in the background. So they were avoiding the cameras like crazy, whatever reason. I could hear cabinets opening and closing. I could hear doors opening and closing, but nobody was in the cabin at that time. It was just Craig, Matt, and I, and we had the only key.
Just one key. Hey, Robert, buddy, thanks for coming in. So just one key to the place. So you think the spirits were avoiding the cameras?
They were avoiding the cameras. They were avoiding not just the cameras. They were avoiding my audio, except for when we had the spirit box on. They were avoiding. They were like, it felt like we were being round up. Like we were the cattle and they were the ranch herders. I mean, that's the best way to explain it. It's like, here we are, the flock of sheep in the middle, and then they're just like making sure we're so okay. We're going to move. We're going to go over here, and then they surround us. Okay, we get up and move over here. Then they surround us. They never came into our bubble except for when we did the experiment. That's it. When we went to the Gold Hill Cemetery, it was, no pun intended, dead. Literally, as in no energies. We felt no energies out there in that graveyard. It was just blank.
But you get that graveyards over here, cut cards as well over here. You go to some places and you're expecting, loads of atmosphere or activity, and you get nothing. You don't feel anything. You pick up nothing.
Because we went and we found the graves of the three brothers that had passed to give their respect to them, and then we found the other one, the Irishman who had passed away. So we found him and gave our respect, but nothing. I have nothing on audio. There was nothing. It makes me wish I was there at night. But if you go at night, you have to bring lots of light because there's no electricity out there. You have to bring your own light source. It's that dark. And then it got cloudy a couple days, but I swear, I think honestly, because I'm not saying that the atmosphere of ourselves, I just think for whatever reason, they were choosing to avoid us. I don't know why. I've never felt that in that cabin before. I've always had them be right up next to me or looking over my shoulder, or I always come back with some kind of really clear EVP. And this time they're B-class EVPs. I don't have anything that's considered, maybe one is considered A-class. And I'm like, what the hell?
Do you think it's going to sound totally stupid, but I always say that when we pass, we're still the same person as we were here. We still get a personality and what have you. And do you think that maybe they just couldn't be bothered? I know that sounds totally absurd.
I don't know. It felt more residual this time than intelligent. Andy, what does he say? The spirits weren't Hollywood natives in their life. And no. Yes, we had a K2. I had lots of different things out there. The K2, nothing. Completely nothing. I gave it to him. It didn't go off. I have this lantern that is that goes up in scale on the color for detection. Nothing. The only time we had anything that went off was my Melmeter REM pod, and it went off for a little bit and then it stopped. Nothing was touched. They didn't play with any of our equipment. They didn't touch any of our trigger objects. Every item that I brought was like, what the hell did I bring it out for? Because I'm like, I asked them, and I even showed them. I'm taking the K2, and I'm like, look, it's not going to hurt you. See, you guys should know this by now. I'm teasing them because usually by teasing them, they'll go, okay, we'll show off or do something. Nothing.
Okay, Andy's asking, how often's the cabin occupied though?
Okay, the cabin is occupied practically every weekend during the week, but not always paranormal investigators. People who actually do stay there are staying there because they're passing through and they're doing other things in Virginia City, or they go to Carson City. As far as paranormal investigators, I would say there's maybe 2 or 3 teams a month or less, because it is expensive to rent the cabin. It's not cheap. And as far as them putting up stuff, no, they wouldn't. I would say that a lot of those that are there, I know, were very superstitious. They believed in the knockers, in the Tommy knockers, really hardcore believers in Tommy knockers. And majority of the people that perished were Irish immigrants. Some of them were from Scotland, some were from England, because they were the only ones that were willing to take the jobs at the time. They were to do the dirty work, so to speak. So superstitious, yes. No, but I just think that maybe they were just tired, or maybe they have because of COVID, they haven't had a lot of people there at the cabin. It's been, as I said, only allowing 4 people at any one time in that cabin to stay there. So maybe they're trying to figure out, going, well, what the hell happened? Why are we not getting all these people like we normally get? Because usually there's a huge turnaround, and you have all these people giving tours or whatever about the cabin or the hotel. And I'm thinking it's probably because they're trying to figure out from their end maybe what the heck's going on. But for once, they didn't bully me, so I'm okay with that. So that's always a bonus.
Do you think it was more residual this time?
I think it was more residual this time. I'm not saying that there wasn't any intelligence, but residual felt like the history was repeating a lot this time. Like screaming at up at the entrance, I think, was residual of the day of the mine fire that had happened. I think some of the residual of the pounding in the cabin, the walking and then coming in and out, and the banging and the noise. It didn't seem intelligent to me. It just sounded like it was repeating itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, at Gold Hill, they do have once a month. Usually, they do a ghost tour of the hotel and the cab. That cabin and the cabins across the way. The cabins across the way are supposed to be haunted too, but I haven't been in them. These are all original structure, or mostly original structures of the time period. So there's a lot of history at Gold Hill. Excuse me. There are rumors, from what I understand, that some of the miners would grab ladies of the night and bring them to the cabin when they weren't supposed to. So there's those rumors. I don't know how much of that is true, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did. I know that during the time when the mine was active, there was lots of theft, people stealing ore, both gold, silver, quartz from the mine. And this was happening in the early 1900s as well. It was during the late 1800s. So, as I said, this cabin has had so much history over time, and the hotel has had all this history over time, that unless you are pinpointing a time in history, you're not an unexperienced investigator is not going to know whether or not they're hearing the 1800s, the 1900s. They're not going to know. We were there specifically to find out more information about the mine fire and try to get answers out and try to find out, for once and for all, how did it actually start? Because they have articles written and newspaper articles written of how it was supposedly started, or what people have said and how it started. But these are questions that we were asking. So we were asking them not your routine questions. Are you male or female? No. We asked they were sitting next to us. They're sitting in the chair, and we're like, okay, we're going to have a discussion. And the atmosphere was light. You could feel the heaviness lighten up. So that was definitely a change. And we could hear audibly. We could all hear chattering, but it never came out loudly, just enough that we go, what the heck is that? And the Gold Hill Hotel did not have anyone staying at it. We were the only people there until we left, and then people had come in to stay at the Gold Hill Hotel. And the only other, and besides that, there was people at the cabin across the road. There was no one else staying where we were to cause any of that. Trust me, I go out and we them up. What is that sound? How come that sound's doing this? Why is that sound doing that? There were no people. There was nobody.
So which other people who stayed there. Is there any other reports for other guests that have stayed there, things happening to them, or them seeing things, or?
Yeah, just, I want to say a few months ago, I guess a family had stayed there. They told the staff that they had a hard time sleeping and had to leave the cabin because they couldn't. They were keep getting woken up. Something kept waking them up in the cabin. I don't. According to the lady that I talked to at the front desk, said that they actually they switched it to hotel room versus the cabin. So that happened to a family, and that family wasn't there for the ghost. They were just there to stay. So I don't know. They pick and choose who they want to communicate with. I mean, as I said, yeah, there's lots of stuff that happens there, just not always all the time. Let's see. With these mines, did they use a bird to tell if there was methane in the mines? Not so much in these mines. Not those are more prominent on the East Coast. They did have they did have a blacksmith down in the mine. They had a donkey. They would have a donkey down there during with the blacksmith. I don't know about birds. At least I didn't see, or my research did not come up with any birds in these particular mines because of what they were digging up and what they were blasting away. But the only thing I know they relied on was their own senses, and they never had to escape the mine for any reason except for that mine fire. The mine fire was the first time they've ever had to evacuate the mine for any reason. And it wasn't just the Yellow Jacket mine. That was the Kentuck and the Crown Point mine were also because of the fumes. When the fire started, that's when the real fumes started, and they spread to the other mines and caused this poisonous gas that lingered for almost a year or more. But I don't recall ever hearing stories or reading about birds in those mines, or mine birds basically tell you if something is wrong. No canary, no, not over here anyway. I know those stories are really popular over on the East Coast with a lot of those particular mines. But do you recall hearing anything about over here? I mean, if there were, we weren't privy to that information. So, I mean, it's a good question.
So going back before the mines, what's the kind of, do you know the history of the land before the mines were there?
It was purchased. The history of the lands, you had the Washoe Indians. Their tribe pretty much was all over that place. There was wild horses everywhere. There's still wild horses. There were pioneers who came. What was that sound?
Did you hear that as well?
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't know, it came from that direction. I don't know what it was. I'm glad I'm not the only one that heard it then.
I don't know, but majority of the place was founded by people that were doing mining claims. When they finally found silver, it was they had their silver rush where California had their gold rush. So when silver was found, everyone is starting to come into the area and making claims. So silver is the silver claims.
The growl.
It was, I don't know what that was. It did sound like kind of like a growl from our end.
Don't know.
What's going on there in Scotland, huh?
No idea. Frankie heard the growl. So I heard something, Frankie. I don't know what the hell it was. Ah, well.
But yeah, a lot of them were claim stalkers, and those who weren't claiming mines came to the area to, miners are going to need goods, so they had general stores. But pretty much before that, it was pioneers just looking for a new way of life. But in that area, unless they found something to do to make money, I don't think they had a lot of people living there at all. They had tent cities that were built up because of the silver rush and finding the silver and finding more gold and quartz. Quartz was also a big commodity.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And Angus was at the Iron Brew delivery arriving there at the Soundless. And they were actually on drinking Fanta these days.
Fanta. I like Fanta. Fanta's good.
you know what Iron Brew is, don't you?
So I say that. Sorry, I didn't catch that this time. I
You
usually
know
just fine, but apparently I lost you in translation.
Do you know what Iron Brew is?
No, I don't.
It's a drink. It's made in Scotland, and it's a kind of running joke between Andy and a couple of folk and all. It's a soft drink. It's made in Scotland. Not a lot of people south of the border like it, but it kind of gets drunk all the time up here. That's what Andy's saying was at our Iron Brew delivery arriving.
I see. According to Sarah.
Dustin says it's an amazing drink. It is. Everybody, I mean, it's up here.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to try it sometime.
Well, when you visit Scotland, you can buy a bottle. Yeah. So there wasn't a lot of people living on the land prior to the mines?
No, just the native. The natives didn't really live there. They wandered through that area. The Washoe were there. They were. There was another tribe. I can't remember their name, but there were natives there, but they didn't stay in one place. They wandered wherever the water sources were and where the food was. So, yeah. I mean, if you Google it, you can actually look it up, and there's not much there before this town started popping up for the mine strikes. So finding silver was a huge thing. Underneath Virginia City, there are mine shafts all underneath Virginia City. They're all over Gold Hill. I wish I'd taken a picture of that goddamn map. There is a map in the cabin that showed the Comstock of a certain time period. It was after the mine fire, but it showed every mine in the area from before Gold Hill and up through to Virginia City. I don't think you could walk too far without walking on top of another mine.
Mhm. So that's the area we live in. Ayrshire, that's there's loads of mines where we live. The whole area used to be a mining. There was a small mining village about quarter of a mile from where we live. So underneath us, it's all mines, and further down southwise, maybe 10, 15 miles, it's just it's all just littered with old mine shafts that have all been also sealed in. So I mean, it's just my opinion, but to most of the activity probably stems from the mines of those that live there.
I think so. Put it this way, there's still open mine shafts, and there's still mining that goes on there today. There are still mining operations, but I don't remember what the names of those mining operations are. but I lost my train of thought. It went bye-bye. Totally.
There's still mining goes on. So Craig, is it converted you to a believer, or has it gave you more of the bug now that you've been and witnessed stuff yourself?
I mean, I'm a believer, so I memean, yeah, it definitely helped me push to want to believe more and do stuff more.
Yeah, because that's why. Yeah, we went to the. You were the only one. You went with me to the cemetery. So,
Yeah.
And you're the one who went with me to the top of the mine.
Mhm.
Those were actually my idea was the cemetery. His was let's go to the top because I really wanted to go. So yes, he gives me lots of great ideas.
And that's good. Obviously, he's a mother and son, but it's good that you have that bond, and the two you can work well together that way as well. And you can, how you put it, feed off each other's ideas or whatever. Swap ideas and try this and try that. So it's a good combination.
It is, and even with Matt there, we're able to do things together and be able to. I would look up because I would feel something, and then these two would get a camera or they would get something, so they would go in the direction I'm feeling. So we would work well together. All of us worked really well together. I just wish that it wasn't so warm and muggy when we went. Other than that, it felt the third day. On the third day, during the day, the heaviness had been gone. It felt like we could. What did you say? It's like, oh, I could live here.
Yeah, I could live.
Yeah, it's like it felt so comfortable and so welcoming by the third day we were there. Whatever heaviness was there had dissipated.
Maybe they had accepted the fact that you were there, and
I think so.
You never mentioned it.
I think they gave up, or whatever was going on. Gave up trying because they knew they were going to frighten me, so they'd have to go over, to Craig or Matt because they had never been there before. Other than that, they know they can't get me because I just yell at them.
Sure. So he's planning on going back.
Eventually, but not anytime soon. Because one, you have to be able to rent the place, and that place rents quite often and quite frequently, and it's expensive.
So
you do it for that many nights. It can be expensive.
It was well worth the trip anyway.
It was yeah, of course it was. I actually have a couple more knowledge about the mines and more knowledge about the area, history-wise, especially with the railway that goes right by the cabin too. I didn't realize that the railway was built after the mine, finished after the mine disaster happened. So a lot of the railway wasn't up there during the time of that disaster, but not this time. But before they reinstated the V&T Railroad, Virginia City and Truckee Railroad, at least I experienced in the middle of the night, like 12 or 1 o'clock in the night, a phantom train whistle I used to hear. This time, the only time the train comes by for the tourism, but it shuts down after a certain hour. and there's no train, there's nothing. And
Mm,
I didn't hear any phantom whistles or any phantom train this time around.
not a thing.
Not a thing. We
Maybe
did
the-
find, but what'd you find? We found an old quarry.
Yeah.
We found an old quarry that we didn't know existed. That was not far from the mine. We kind of do the whole look. Where does that road go? I don't know. Just walk. Because in Nevada, unlike California, unless they tell you or have a sign that says no trespassing or danger or whatever, you can pretty much walk anywhere or go anywhere in Nevada. Yeah. As long as you're not going on someone's private property and it's posted, you don't do it. But where we were, it just says we can revoke the right to kick you off the property at any time. Okay.
Yeah, that's the same in Scotland. There is no sort of formal trespassing laws in Scotland. It's basically a free roam land as long as there's no any built up, private houses or anything on that land, and you're basically free to go anywhere. There's no trespassing laws. But I think we'll wind it up there for I was going to say tonight, this afternoon.
This afternoon for us and evening for you.
Yeah.
News. So thanks.
There's not much more we could talk about. I just would say look up. I did post on her on the boy.
Paranormal history.
Thank you,
You're
because
welcome.
apparently I can't talk. I did post
Okay.
yeah, it's on there. I did post the pictures. I did post the history and some of our experiments and what we felt and from in the past and what we felt there. So if you want to know more information that if I forgot to cover it right now, head to that post.
And on that note, we'll say thanks everybody come in and be safe. And we'll be back next week with a couple of lives, but details will be up on our Facebook page next week. So I'll hold on to use two for a wee second or two after we come off. And everybody take care and stay safe. So bye for now, folks.
Bye.